Welcome back to Mugshot Mysteries. I'm Catherine.
And I'm Gabriel. And if you're joining us for the first time through this limited series, welcome. Mugshot Mysteries is where we try to dive deep into true crime cases. We blend storytelling with psychological analysis to understand not just what happened, but the why. We're hard-hitting. We hit so hard, you probably won't even remember what we said.
Wow. Well, and in this series, The Cost of Health is unlike anything we've done before. We're examining a case that's still unfolding today, a case that's really divided America, a case that's forced the entire country to look in the mirror and ask some really uncomfortable questions about who we are.
And why that haircut? Now,
That.
If you haven't listened to episodes 1 and 2, I'd encourage you to go back. They're great. I pinky swear. We covered the state of American healthcare. Not good. Spoiler. The denials, the bankruptcies, the rage that's been simmering for decades. But today we're going to go deep into the crime itself. Today we get real or realer. I don't know what the kids say. Is that a middle-aged thing?
I don't know. I think all the kids just say 6'7" right now. So,
oh, God.
So it's about to be a 6'7" podcast. Does that work?
I feel 6'7".
Okay. So this is the episode where we walk through every detail, the surveillance footage, the ghost gun, the manifesto, which we're going to read extensively, the 5-day manhunt, and critically, what happens next in the legal battle that could determine whether Luigi Mangione lives or dies.
So fair warning, this episode is probably longer than usual. We're going till we got nothing left. But we felt like this case deserves the full treatment. So no shortcuts. We're giving maximum effort here.
Let's do this.
Sneaky footsteps in the night, clues that vanish out of sight. Grab your hat and magnifying glass. We'll talk this case and have a blast. Mugshot Mysteries, we're on the trail. Twists and turns that never fail. Laughs and chills, it's quite the show. Who did it? Tune in to know.
December 4th, 2024, 6:44 a.m. in Midtown Manhattan. The temperature hovers just above freezing, and a man in a tan jacket walks towards the New York Hilton Midtown, preparing to address hundreds of investors at his company's annual conference. He never makes it inside.
What happens next is done in under 10 seconds. A masked person emerges from behind a parked car. He raises a pistol. It has a 3D printed silencer on it, and he fires. So Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, this is the largest health insurance provider in America. He goes down. The shooter walks up, fires again. Then, calmly, almost methodically, he walks away. This is movie-level shit here.
Yeah, that's giving me some Godfather vibes. Well, when he leaves, he gets on an e-bike like he's just commuting to work.
And he's going right through Central Park, in a city where there's more surveillance cameras than almost anywhere else on Earth. Now, I'm not sure that that's correct, but I think it is. I'm sure he blended in, but not to the cameras, not if you looked hard enough. These days, it's almost impossible to beat the cameras. This is Big Brother in action, 1984, it's coming into the light.
And the police would later recover something that sent this case viral. 3 spent shell casings with words etched into the brass. Delay, deny, depose.
Those are 3 words that you might have heard if you fought an insurance company.
Delay, deny, defend. The title of a 2010 book exposing how insurance companies reject claims. A playbook that cost lives. And now someone had apparently decided to turn that playbook into a message written in brass and gunpowder.
This is The Cost of Health, a Mugshot Mysteries limited series. And I love limited series because there's no season 2. This is it gets good at season 3. We're shooting our shot, and that's probably a bad use of words.
Maybe, perhaps, that deep dive you've been waiting for. But before we talk about the shooter, we need to talk about the target, because this wasn't random. This was surgical. And to understand why Brian Thompson was chosen, you have to understand who he was and what he represented.
So firstly, let's do something important, and we're going to humanize our victim. It is deserved. It's necessary. Brian Thompson was 50 years old. He was a father of 2 teenage sons in Minnesota. He worked at United Health Group for nearly 21 years. He worked his way up until he became CEO of United Healthcare in April of 2021.
Now, let's put United Healthcare's size in perspective. This isn't just a big insurance company. This is the biggest. More than $281 billion in revenue in 2023 alone. They insure more Americans than any other private company. And when people talk about big healthcare, United Healthcare is the face of it.
And guess what? Thompson, he became associated with some really controversial practices. United Healthcare had a 32% claim denial rate. That's double the industry average of 16%, which I guess is strike one.
Absolutely. But think about what that means. 1 in 3 claims denied. That's not a bug in the system. That's the system working as designed.
Just 2 months before the shooting, in October of 2024, a U.S. Senate investigation released a pretty damning report about prior authorization denials for Medicare Advantage patients. United Healthcare, guess what? They were named. ProPublica, they had been investigating. Fortune magazine called it a stain on Thompson's leadership. So while this seems like taking on any random CEO, it becomes pretty targeted to one in particular.
His own wife told NBC News that he'd been receiving threats. There had been some threats, she said. Basically, I don't know, a lack of coverage. I don't know details. I just know that he said that there were people that had been threatening him.
Yet, despite that, Thompson was walking alone that morning. There was no security detail, no protective measures that we know of. Threats are one thing, but can you really expect to be stalked and killed on a daily basis?
There's a former health insurance executive who was quoted by the Financial Times saying threats against health insurance companies are common. Quote, "We'd have times when you deny proton laser therapy for a kid with seizures and the parent would freak out."
Like John Q.
Ugh.
Now, this is completely understandable, not the violence, but I would say the reaction of parents. So these CEOs, they're so used to people being enraged by denials that threats just become background noise. These are not the same type of mad you get in like a customer service job, right? When they ask for your manager. This is violent. They're not just looking for free shipping here.
And to be absolutely clear, threats don't justify murder. Nothing does. But the question investigators would later ask is, did someone see this man as the symbol of everything wrong with American healthcare? And did they decide to send a message?
And guess where that message was?
Where?
It was waiting in a McDonald's 280 miles away. As any truly dramatic event should end with a big mess to watch the world burn.
Wow. We know you like your Mickey D's.
Oh, God, I love it.
All right, so let's rewind a bit. Because when investigators started piecing together the shooter's movements, they discovered something chilling. This really wasn't impulsive. This was planned with precision over months.
So let's go to November 24th, 2024. This is 10 days before the shooting. A Greyhound bus pulls into Port Authority Bus Terminal in Manhattan. This is 9 p.m. A young man steps off. He's carrying a gray backpack. Surveillance cameras capture his arrival, not surprisingly. He's come from Atlanta.
And why take a bus from Atlanta to New York when you could fly? One word, anonymity. Bus travel doesn't require ID verification the same way air travel does. No TSA, no databases, and you're just another passenger.
Anonymity is actually a really great word that I can't say consistently. For the next 6 days, this man is a ghost. He actually escapes the cameras. But on November 30th, he surfaces. He walks into New York City's hostel on Upper West Side, and he checks in using a fake New Jersey driver's license. Now, personally, I don't know what this says about New Jerseyans, but he thought, hey, this feels right.
And the name on that license? Mark Rosario. Address? Maplewood, New Jersey. All fabricated.
And this is where the case gets its first break, and it was really predictable. You want to hear how this goes?
Tell me.
So predictable, preventable. It was also another P word adjacent. So the desk clerk asks to see his face without the mask. She wants to see him smile. He starts thinking, and the thoughts are not coming from his brain.
Oh, Lord, she was flirting with him.
Exactly. Police sources say she asked, "Can I see your pretty smile?" Now,
she's British?
She could have been.
In Jersey?
Yeah,
Or no, in New York?
That was Australian, by the way. Anyways,
ooh.
I have never, by the way, in my life been asked something like this from the opposite sex or the same sex.
Can I see your pretty smile?
Yes, you can. So you never asked me that.
No, because it's weird.
Don't try to make up for lost time.
It's weird.
I mean, you asked to do the opposite of open my mouth. And you do that quite frequently.
Wow.
So I can't judge what he does next. Personally, I'm sure I would have awkwardly just repeated the question back like a few times, and then she would have gotten annoyed, and then she would be no longer interested in any part of my body. So he was probably used to such compliments over a lifetime filled with compliments. So what did he do? He lowered his mask and grinned. Now that image, that smile would become the most circulated photo of the manhunt.
Mm-hmm.
You saw it. I saw it. I flipped back to it many times while listening to some Jewel.
Oh, Jewel. Well, for someone trying to be invisible, that was quite the rookie mistake. But it also tells you something about him. This wasn't some hardened criminal. This was someone who could turn on the charm, who responded to a compliment, who smiled at a stranger.
Over the next few days, investigators believe that he conducted reconnaissance. He walked the area around the Hilton. He familiarized himself with a route Thompson would take, probably. Mm-hmm. He knew that the annual investor conference was happening on December 4th. That information was public. Again, this is some movie-level stuff.
Mm-hmm. In the morning of December 4th, the timeline becomes precise. This is where surveillance footage tells the story minute by minute.
It's 5:34 a.m. Let's take you there. The suspect leaves the hostel. Surveillance shows him departing, possibly, again, on an e-bike. Now, just going to backtrack and say, this guy was riding around on an e-bike, and he was still getting more compliments than I've ever gotten.
Okay, now it's 5:41 a.m., and he's spotted near the Hilton. NYPD Chief of Detectives Joseph Kinney would later describe this period as wandering, walking back and forth on 54th Street, checking sightlines. Quote,
"We have him wandering around, walking in the vicinity of the hotel, walking on 54th Street, walking back and forth."
Do you know what the military would call that?
What?
Advance work.
Oh, okay.
Right? It's fancy. So small groups in the military will advance ahead, and this small group, sometimes like one or two people, if you count the e-bike, he's confirming the location. He's checking for variables. He's making sure his plan is solid. Now, maybe we're giving him too much credit, but it certainly seemed like this is exactly what he was doing.
6:17 a.m., he walks into a Starbucks on 6th Avenue. He buys a bottle of water and 2 energy bars and pays cash, which I think is his first mistake. Why are you going to Starbucks to get water? Come on now, bruh.
I think he should have powered himself up with some Big Macs, but that's just me.
Well, that comes later.
The Starbucks footage, which of course they have, shows him very clearly. Black face mask pulled down. His hood was up. He's calm. He's methodical. He's got roughly 30 minutes until this shooting. Now, I wonder how many more compliments he got from that goth staff while he was there.
Oh, wow. Okay, 6:44 a.m. Brian Thompson walks out of his hotel, heading toward the Hilton just yards away. The shooter emerges from between 2 parked cars on West 54th Street.
He had strategically positioned himself. He was waiting. This is a man who planned for this moment in a life of big moments.
The attack lasts less than 10 seconds. Thompson is shot from behind, once in the back, and once in the calf. As he falls, the shooter walks up, fires again. His gun jams briefly. He clears it, which tells you he knew the weapon, and then he fires once more.
And then he just walks away. He doesn't run. He just walks.
Okay, so NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch would later call him extremely camera savvy. He kept his face covered. He moved with purpose. He knew exactly where he was going.
So 6:48 a.m., he's on his e-bike, and he's riding through Central Park through the 60th Street entrance.
7:30 a.m., he appears near the George Washington Bridge bus station. He enters, and there's no footage of him exiting. Police believe he boarded a bus. Destination, Pennsylvania.
And just like that, he's gone. He vanishes into the American heartland. Now, personally, I think this was a mistake. A big city to blend into. I mean, what do you think?
I mean, I don't think I would want to go into a country area of Pennsylvania where I would probably stand out with my e-bike, but...
Well, and where everybody knows everybody.
But maybe not as many cameras.
You're right. So I don't know that there's a right answer, but certainly he did the wrong thing.
He sure did.
Got caught not too soon after. Now, if we did have a podcast on Whitey Bulger, by the way, and you know how he escaped for 10 years, he just went to LA County. So that's where I get this.
Big city.
Yeah, I get the big cities better because you just blend in and nobody cares what you're doing.
Duly noted. Okay, but we need to talk about the gun because this wasn't just any firearm. This is what's called a ghost gun. And it tells you a lot about who they are dealing with.
So do you know what a ghost gun is?
Not really. I mean, kind of. I do.
Either, to be honest. I know it's a boogeyman if you're talking about gun laws because everybody just says, well, I'll just get a ghost gun or I'll fabricate one.
Going to dial up the black market and get it.
Yeah, I don't know the black market guy personally.
Me either.
But I guess you just can call him. People have his number.
Or her.
Or her. Or they. I don't know. So a ghost gun, it's a firearm that has no serial number. It can't be traced through traditional databases, so there's no purchase record, there's no background check, there's no paper trail. It's called a ghost because it doesn't exist, at least not to law enforcement.
And in this case, the gun was partially 3D printed. Within 24 hours of the arrest photo being released, the online community that tracks these weapons identified it a Chairman Wan V1, a variant of a popular design called the FMDA 19.2.
Okay, and for everybody, what does FMDA stand for?
Free men don't ask. It's a libertarian slogan.
Not surprising.
Yeah. So the people who design these weapons see themselves as fighting government overreach. The irony is their creation was allegedly used by someone who seemed to have a completely different political grievance.
Okay, so tell us how a ghost gun works. I'm just picturing a 3D printed gun and it shoots bullets like it's a Nerf powered rifle.
Okay, so you're pretty much not right about any of that, but I appreciate the imagery. Okay, so then there's the frame, and that's what's called the lower receiver. It's the regulated part of the gun. That's what has the serial number. That's what requires a background check. So you 3D print the frame using polymer materials, then you combine it with commercially available metal parts, a barrel, a slide, a magazine. The criminal complaint describes it as a black 3D printed pistol with a metal slide and a plastic handle with a metal threaded barrel.
Dang. This is why I love you. Man, you're a gun expert. I have some new ideas for
From
a Christmas
Virginia.
card. Yeah, let's do that Christmas card with some guns. Show everybody how free we are. Anyways.
No.
So tell me about the silencer because that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and that was also 3D printed. So experts identified it as likely from the FTN series. And yes, the F stands for the expletive. And the TN is a reference to the National Firearms Act of 1934, which banned silencers. So these people are very specific with their ideology.
Yeah, sounds like it. So what I'm getting at is whoever did this had significant technical knowledge, which probably surpassed my ability to install a new fan. So it doesn't sound like a Nerf gun that shoots silenced bullets anymore.
I mean, it'd kind of be fun. I want a Nerf gun like that. Anyway, no on the Nerf gun. Yes on the significant technical knowledge. And when they found the suspect, they found a handwritten note in his possession. In it, he wrote something that would become central to understanding this case. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience.
So I know what CAD is.
What is that?
It means computer-aided design.
Ooh.
Yeah, so the software you use to create 3D printed objects. I had a class in high school on this, I think.
Really? Even that long ago?
Well, yeah, we barely had computers. Okay, no, never mind. No, you know what? It was C++. And it's totally not CAD. Oh my God. And now I'm showing my age. I also probably got like a D- on that whole program.
Wow. Okay, well, he was likely better than you at this and was essentially bragging about how easy it was. And for someone with his background, bachelor's and master's degrees in engineering from the University of Pennsylvania, it probably was.
Thank God my mom never met his mom. And, he had a great smile too.
Yeah, just ask the chick from the hostel.
So for 5 days, this shooter becomes America's most wanted man. I remember it. You remember it.
Oh, yeah.
And the investigation that led to his capture was all about old-fashioned detective work meeting modern technology. So I'm just picturing brown overcoats and cigarettes and booze and a lot of black beauties and maybe a couple slaps on the behind of the assistants.
Okay. Cool. So the NYPD initially offered a $10,000 reward, and then the FBI said, not to be topped, we're going to go ahead and add $50,000 to that. And then the tips flooded in. But what cracked the case was the evidence left behind.
And remember when he didn't go to McDonald's and he chose Starbucks?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So remember, he bought water and energy bars. He threw out the wrappers. Investigators recovered them. Kind bar wrapper and a water bottle. It's from Starbucks, right?
I know.
And they found partial fingerprints. So the moral of the story here is just exist and you will be found.
Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. Fingerprints only help if you have something to compare them to. And at this point, they didn't know who they were looking for. They just had surveillance photos, including that flashy smile at the hostel. And then they released the images to the public, just pushed it out.
So I remember this again. The response was overwhelming, everywhere, all pervasive. Social media exploded. Some people were trying to help identify him. Others, and this is where it starts getting a little controversial and tricky, they're creating memes, they're posting support. They were treating him like some kind of folk hero before they even knew his name. Now, as a purveyor of things such as Reddit, I can tell you with 100% certainty that this was completely and utterly expected.
And we'll get into the public reaction later. But for investigators, the clock was ticking. They knew the suspect had likely left New York. Pennsylvania State Police confirmed he'd been in their state for, quote, several days after the shooting.
Now, he traveled between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and he made some stops along the way. So evidence found later showed that he had detailed travel plans. Again, this was very well planned. He had a hand-drawn map connecting cities like Columbus and Cincinnati and Detroit and Indianapolis and St. Louis. Notes that said things like, keep momentum, FBI slower overnight, and change hat, shoes, pluck eyebrows.
He did have some eyebrows.
Bushy eyebrows. Now, whether or not he was actually good at this stuff, he certainly was living in that fantasy.
I mean, he was just trying to evade surveillance. He knew they'd release photos showing his face and his thick eyebrows, because he definitely had them. He knew he needed to change his appearance. And
then came December 9th, Altoona, Pennsylvania, East Plank Road, and that goddamn McDonald's. Around 9:14 a.m., Altoona police receive a 911 call. A customer at the McDonald's has recognized someone. He's seen these photos plastered across every news channel in America. So he's totally convinced that that man sitting at the table eating a steak sandwich is a United Healthcare shooter. I don't know that there's actually steak sandwiches at McDonald's, but we'll just say he was eating a sandwich.
Well, I mean, I think they do have steak breakfast sandwiches. I could be wrong, but I thought so. And I thought you were the McDonald's guy.
Yes, McDonald's was my first job, like 50% of America. And I don't remember a steak sandwich, but we'll go with it.
Well, you're losing your name badge over here. So you've heard of the McRib before, right? Okay, so anyway, he tells an employee and the employee calls police.
So the officers that arrive are Tyler Fry and Joseph DeWeiler. They approach the man at the table. He's wearing a mask, which is suspicious in itself, but a little bit more common at that point. They ask to see his face, not necessarily to see his pretty smile.
And then he hands him an ID, New Jersey driver's license, name Mark Rosario.
So this is the same fake name that he used in the Manhattan hostel.
So the officers run the ID and it doesn't check out. Officer Fry asks him, what brings you to the area? And according to testimony, he mumbles something about just trying to use the Wi-Fi. And they ask him if he's been to New York City recently.
Now, here's the thing. There's video of this, by the way. And so this is where everything changes. According to Officer Stephen Fox, who testified at a recent pretrial hearing, he becomes visibly nervous, kind of shaking at that question. And he didn't really answer it directly. Now, just saying that statement, I know, is pretty subjective, but...
They search his backpack, and inside a loaded 9mm pistol. Black, partially 3D printed, with a Glock magazine containing 6 rounds, a 3D printed silencer, a fake New Jersey driver's license, thousands of dollars in cash, and a red notebook.
And a loaded magazine wrapped in a pair of underwear.
Alrighty.
Which is kind of how I hide stuff. So why is it pertinent to the story? I don't know, but I do think it's funny that they had to play with his drawers to get to the evidence.
Something for the courts. So, Officer Chrissy Wasser testified that when she found the magazine, she heard another officer say, and I'm quoting body cam footage here,
"It's him, dude. It's him. 100%.
They asked him for his real name. After initially refusing, he gave it, Luigi Mangione.
Age 26, born in Towson, Maryland, graduate of the University of Pennsylvania, member of a prominent real estate family, and valedictorian of his elite prep school.
So here's one more detail from the rest. As he was being led into the courthouse later that day, surrounded by media, and I think we all saw this, Mangione shouted to the cameras,
and completely untouched and insult the intelligence of the American people, including me.
Now, this reminds me of another video of a man getting arrested and shouting some lines. Do you remember this guy?
Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest. Have a look at the headlock here. See that chap over there? Get your hand off my penis!
Do you remember that?
I do. Quite a comparison you're making to Luigi, but all right. So maybe that's when America realized this wasn't going to be a simple case.
This is where the story gets complicated, because Luigi Mangione wasn't some marginalized loner with a criminal history. He was, by all accounts, a golden boy. This is a kid where the moms, they're like, what's Luigi up to these days? I always like that boy. Invite him to dinner. And you're like, Mom, I'm not going to do that.
Born May 6, 1998, into one of Maryland's most prominent families. His grandfather, Nicholas Mangione Sr., built a real estate empire, the Turf Valley Resort, the Hayfields Country Club, and the family name is on buildings, hospital wings, university aquatic centers. They've donated over $1 million to the Greater Baltimore Medical Center alone.
So, everyday normal family. So
Totally.
He attended the Gilman School, which apparently is one of Baltimore's most elite all-boys prep schools, where tuition today runs like $40,000 a year. And he graduated as valedictorian in 2016. And he had a really nice smile.
And then he went to the University of Pennsylvania, where he earned both a bachelor's and master's degree in engineering. He graduated cum laude in 2020. He was inducted into Eta Kappa Nu, an honor society for the top students in electrical and computer engineering. He did a robotics research internship at Johns Hopkins, and he worked as a programming intern at Firaxis Games, where he helped develop Civilization 6.
Oh, boy. That is a great game. They're all great games. Why is this guy living my dream? No. At Penn, he founded the university's first video game development club, which I didn't know was a thing. He was a member of Phi Kappa Psi fraternity. He worked as a counselor at Stanford's summer program for gifted high schoolers.
And then after graduation, he worked as a data engineer for TrueCar, an online car sales platform. He moved to Hawaii, where he lived in a co-living space called Surf Break, which is a community for remote workers.
His roommate there, R.J. Martin, described him as thoughtful, friendly, a bit of a leader. He said Mangione spent his free time hiking, stargazing, reading, and I quote,
never once talked about guns, never once talked about violence. He was absolutely a not violent person. As far as I could tell.
And then the back injury. So Mangione had I want to try to say this right, spondylolisthesis. Oh, boy.
I'm just happy you're the one having to say it because you kept giving me all the crazy names
there
to
is
say
a lot of
for the DLF.
There is a lot of letters in this condition, and you could have just been named after like the scientist that discovered it. Like he has John's condition. You know what I mean? But anyways,
so what is it?
Is a condition where there's a vertebrae and it slips out of place.
Oof.
And then that vertebrae puts pressure on the nerves around the spine.
Ooh.
Sounds horrible.
Absolutely.
So he had this since childhood, and it didn't go well for him.
Yeah. So in Hawaii, he went surfing once, and it aggravated the injury severely. His roommate said it was actually quite traumatic. Mangione later posted on Reddit under a now deleted account believed to be his that his back and hips locked up after the incident. Quote, intermittent numbness has become constant. I am terrified of the implications.
And he had to do a spinal fusion surgery in 2023. And he even posted about it afterwards, saying the surgery was, I quote, way less of a big deal than I had anticipated, which makes it seem like everything went well. But friends say that that's when everything changed, really. He withdrew. He stopped responding to messages. His digital footprint, which was kind of large, diminished. In today's age, that's notable. Like when you see friends stop posting. Since the days of friend world on MySpace, these things have been very, very public and noticeable.
So his mother filed a missing persons report in San Francisco in November 2024. Friends were posting on social media, pleading with him to get in touch. One wrote, "I haven't heard from you in months. Apparently your family is looking for you. I don't know if you're okay."
Another friend had asked him about commitments for a wedding. And this guy was quoted as saying, "You made commitments to me for my wedding, and if you can't honor them, I need to know so I can plan accordingly."
And his roommate later told the New York Times something kind of heartbreaking. He knew that dating and being physically intimate with his back condition just wasn't possible. I remember him telling me that, and my heart just breaks.
And so here's another thing. There's evidence that he was dealing with brain fog, and he actually had explored alternative treatments, like psychedelics for pain management. I mean, I investigated this for similar reasons that didn't involve pain management.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow, Gabriel. Chronic pain, isolation, and a bright future derailed by a medical condition. It's not an excuse, but it may be context for what came next.
When police arrested Mangione, they found more than a gun. They found his drawers too. They found something even more dangerous, though. Words. A 3-page handwritten document that prosecutors have called a manifesto, and a red notebook that functioned as his diary. And these writings are going to be crucial to understanding this case. 3 pages seems weak to call anything a manifesto, but I guess here we are.
All right, guys, let me read the manifesto in full. This was released by independent journalist Ken Klippenstein after major media outlets refused to publish it while still quoting from it selectively. We believe you deserve to hear his actual words and judge for yourself.
To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering basic CAD, a lot of patience, the spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info in there. I do apologize for any strife or traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the US has the #1 expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the largest company in the US by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, and Walmart. It has grown and grown, but how's our life expectancy? No. The reality is, these corporations have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex. But I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed, example, Rosenthal, more, decades ago. And the problem simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty.
That's 262 words. This is like when you need that 1,000-word essay and you do the word count and you realize, I'm not sleeping anytime soon.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And also, can something that's good be really, really good? That's all it took to explain, at least in my mind, why he did what he did, allegedly. It's not the longest of manifestos, but it gets the point across pretty well and succinctly. Not really, really anywhere to be found.
The references are telling. Rosenthal is likely Elizabeth Rosenthal, a physician who wrote the 2017 book An American Sickness about healthcare corruption. Moore is almost certainly about Michael Moore, who made the documentary Sicko in 2007. And he's saying people have been exposing this for decades and nothing has changed. So he decided to do something different.
And the diary, the red notebook, goes even deeper. Prosecutors released excerpts in court filings, and they showed this was planned over months.
August 15th, 2024, 4 months before the shooting, Mangione writes,
I finally feel confident about what I will do. The details are coming together, and I don't feel any doubt about whether it's right or justified. I'm glad, in a way, that I've procrastinated because it allowed me to learn more about UHC.
And the term procrastinated suggests that he's been thinking about this long before August, which I can relate. My basketball career has been procrastinated for decades.
My gosh. So then he continues.
The target is insurance. It checks every box.
Then in October 2024, and this is roughly 6 weeks before the shooting, he writes about that investor conference. And I quote,
The investor conference is a true windfall. It embodies everything wrong with our health system, and most importantly, the message becomes self-evident.
And here is the passage prosecutors have focused on the most. He's wrestling with how to make his point, and he explicitly considers and rejects terrorism.
So, say you want to rebel against the deadly, greed-fueled health insurance cartel. Do you bomb the headquarters? No. Bombs equal terrorism. Such actions appear to be unjustified anger or someone who simply got sick, had bad luck, and then took their frustrations out on the insurance industry while recklessly endangering countless employees.
So he's definitely thought about this a lot, and then he writes what prosecutors say is probably the clearest statement of intent.
Instead, you whack the CEO at the annual parasitic bean counter convention. It's targeted, it's precise, and it doesn't risk innocence. Most importantly, the point is self-evident. The point is made in the news headline. Insurance CEO killed at annual investors conference.
Whack. He used that word like it was a business decision.
Yeah, like this is like the movie Casino. I don't know, he's Italian, right? So maybe he can say that. He can say that. Maybe you can use that more freely when you're Italian. Anyways, he also wrote extensively about Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, if you remember. But here's what's interesting. He was not praising this guy. He thought old Teddy K was doing it all wrong. So I quote,
The problem with Teddy K is that he indiscriminately mail bombs innocents. Normies categorize him as an insane serial killer, focus on the act and atrocities themselves, and dismiss his ideas. Most importantly, by committing indiscriminate atrocities, he becomes a monster, which makes his ideas those of a monster, no matter how true. He crosses the line from revolutionary anarchist to terrorist, the worst thing a person can be.
He saw himself as different. He thought by targeting one specific person, a symbol, he could avoid being labeled a terrorist. He thought his message would just land differently.
which the irony is that prosecutors initially charged him with terrorism anyways. Though a judge has since thrown those charges out. What do you think he is, of course, is up to you. I mean, I just don't think the terrorist fits very well.
No, I don't think so either. But one more thing from the diary. He wrote about wanting to shed light on a company that literally extracts human life force for money. He hoped the killing would intimidate health insurance employees, focus public attention on greed, and discourage investors from funding the industry.
So, and I think this is a pertinent point. Mangione was not even a United Healthcare customer. According to prosecutors, he had no business relationship with them at all. He chose them solely because they were the largest health insurance company, right? This is how like people choose to go after my favorite place, McDonald's, for their unhealthy food when their food could arguably be healthier than other fast food places. But they're the biggest. And this is mostly because people come at them more often.
It really was just symbolic. He wanted to target the symbol, the McRib of healthcare.
Yes. All right, let's break down the legal situation because this is where things get complicated and where people are asking, can he actually beat this?
Okay, so Mangione faces charges in 3 separate jurisdictions, and the stakes could not be higher. First, we've got Pennsylvania, where he was arrested. He's charged with carrying a gun without a license, forgery, false identification to police, and possessing instruments of crime. These are the least serious charges.
Okay, let's do a little Q&A with you. So is New York State involved?
Yeah, absolutely. Originally 11 charges, including first-degree murder and the furtherance of terrorism. But in September 2025, Judge Gregory Caro dismissed the 2 terrorism-related murder charges. He ruled the evidence didn't meet the legal threshold for acts intended to, quote, intimidate or coerce the public.
Which is a big win for the defense, right?
Oh, huge. The judge specifically noted that Mangione's writings focus on spreading a message and winning public support, not on terrorizing people. He wrote that stretching a 2-word phrase like revolutionary anarchism to justify terrorism charges ignores other more explicit excerpts of the defendant's writings.
So what does he still face in New York State then?
Okay, well, 9 charges still remain, including second-degree murder, which carries a potential sentence of 15 years to life with the possibility of parole. And New York does not have the death penalty.
Which is true, but the federal cases does.
Well, exactly, and that's the 3rd jurisdiction. In April 2025, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced that the Justice Department would seek the death penalty. Mangione is charged federally with murder through the use of a firearms offense, and 2 counts of stalking.
Okay, so this I know. His defense team has pushed back really hard on the death penalty.
Absolutely. Very, very, very hard. Karen Friedman Agdefilo, which is his lead defense attorney, who's a former Manhattan prosecutor, called it political arbitrary capricious. She's argued the government violated protocol and that they turned his arrest into a Marvel movie spectacle with a choreographed perp walk from a helicopter.
Okay, so let us get to the present. Let's talk about what's happening right now, because there are pretrial hearings going on and they're all about whether key evidence can be used.
And this is crucial. The defense is arguing that basically everything found in Mangione's backpack should be thrown out. The gun, the silencer, the notebook, the manifesto, because police did not have a warrant when they searched it.
Okay, so walk me through these legal arguments.
Would love to. So there are 2 main constitutional issues. First, the 4th Amendment. Protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. The defense says police searched the backpack without a warrant and without valid justification. Body camera footage actually shows officers debating whether they needed a warrant. One officer said yes to play it safe, and then another just disagrees.
So what's the prosecution's argument?
Well, they say it was a lawful search incident to arrest. When you arrest someone, you can search them and items in their immediate control. They also argue public safety. One officer testified she went to check the bag for bombs before removing it from McDonald's.
So does this argument even hold up?
Well, it's questionable. Legal commentators have pointed out that she didn't evacuate the McDonald's, didn't call a bomb squad, and put the bag in her car before completing the search. The defense argues she made up the bomb excuse after the fact to justify what was an illegal search. One legal analyst wrote that the prosecution is really grasping at straws.
Okay, and like so many famous things, the Miranda.
Yeah, so that's the 5th Amendment piece. And the defense argues officers questioned Mangione for about 20 minutes before reading him his rights. They asked his name, whether he'd been to New York, why he was nervous, all before Miranda warnings. If those statements were obtained illegally, they could be suppressed.
Okay, so legal experts, because I'm not one. What's the chances that this evidence actually gets thrown out?
Well, most legal experts say it's a long shot, but not without merit. Criminal defense attorney Josh Ritter called the arguments probably long shots, but they're not without merit. The problem is that factually, it's a fact-intensive inquiry, and the facts are just not in their favor.
Okay, but what if the evidence is thrown out, actually?
Well, then the prosecution's case becomes much harder. The gun is the murder weapon. Ballistics match the shell casings at the scene. The notebook shows motive and premeditation, and without those, they'd have to rely heavily on surveillance footage and fingerprint evidence.
Which is something called inevitable discovery doctrine.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right on that. Even if the initial search was illegal, prosecutors can argue the evidence would have been discovered anyway through legal means, like when they eventually got a warrant. And that's a significant hurdle for the defense.
Okay, so let's get real, remember? Let's get real and realer. What are his actual chances of beating these charges on a scale of Michael Jackson to, well, like Ike Turner?
Wow. All right, I'll be blunt. The evidence is overwhelming. Prosecutors said in a filing, if ever there were an open and shut case pointing to a defendant's guilt, this case is that case. Simply put, one would be hard-pressed to find a case with such overwhelming evidence of guilt as to identify of the murderer and the premeditated nature of the assassination.
So what is actually the defense really doing? Like selfies with him?
Maybe. But the defense isn't really actually trying to prove innocence. That's not what they're doing. They're trying to exclude evidence, challenge procedures, avoid the death penalty. The real question isn't whether he'll be convicted. It's whether he'll be executed.
Okay. So why aren't we doing the insanity defense? That one is always a good one, right?
Sure. And some legal experts have suggested that might be the only real path to avoiding the death penalty. It would require showing Mangione didn't understand the nature of his actions or that they were wrong. Given his detailed planning, the diary entries, the manifesto, the reconnaissance, that's going to be a pretty tough sell. But it might be all they have if the evidence stays in.
But guess what? Public opinion, that becomes relevant. He very well may be pretty popular to someone on that jury. just a jury of his own peers, but a jury that has seen a lot of him.
I mean, right. Because getting a unanimous jury to agree on the death penalty, which is what federal law requires, might be nearly impossible given how divided people are on this case. All it takes is one juror who sympathizes with his frustrations about healthcare and the death penalty's off the table. He'd just get life imprisonment instead.
So let's talk about the reaction. And this brings us to, I guess, some uncomfortable parts of his entire story.
Absolutely.
Because while most Americans, when polled, say they view Mangione unfavorably, there's a significant minority that don't. And the support he's received has been like unlike anything we've probably seen in recent memory. There's a hashtag, of course, always a hashtag, and it says Free Luigi, and that's been shared over 50,000 times on Twitter. That is now X, but also Twitter in my heart. Merchandise appeared on Etsy and Amazon before they even, could remove it. Street art and graffiti in support of Mangione has popped up across the country. There was a billboard in California and a mural in Seattle.
Jeez.
Reddit and other social media was anything to be judged by. Luigi is absolutely a celebrity, if short of being a hero. He is not being villainized in that subsector of people.
Yeah. I mean, some people really are calling him a folk hero, a modern Robin Hood, Saint Luigi, patron saint of the healthcare access for all. There's religious themed merchandise. Women have shown up to his court hearings dressed in green, which is a reference to the video game character Luigi from Mario Bros.
Awesome. Low-hanging fruit, but I love it. At one hearing, inmates at his Pennsylvania prison were heard shouting, "Free Luigi" from the cells during the actual live broadcast. There's a musical about the case that sold out in Los Angeles. I mean, look.
A musical, though? Like what?
Look, this is not The Juice is Loose. But it's something I think they're missing out on. It's a free Luigi.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so The Guardian called him one of the most polarizing figures in American pop culture.
Let's look at actual numbers because numbers do lie, but not as often as my opinions. So a December 2024 YouGov poll found that 43% of Americans held an unfavorable view of Mangione, while 21% viewed him favorably. But among 18 to 29-year-olds, support was notably higher. Noticeably.
A December 2024 NORC poll found something even more striking. Most Americans believe health insurance companies' claims denials share responsibility for Thompson's death.
So think about this. They're not excusing the murder necessarily, but they're saying that the industry created the conditions for it. They're short of saying it's justified, but what they are saying is this makes sense.
The Network Contagion Research Institute found that engagement with posts about Thompson's killing on platforms like X and Reddit surpassed that of the assassination attempt against Donald Trump in July by some measures. And of the top 10 most engaged tweets mentioning Thompson or United Health, 6 implicitly or explicitly supported the killing.
Again, this isn't about whether murder is justified. For most people, it's not. But it is about the depth of the rage Americans feel towards a healthcare system that has failed them. This is 2001, and Limp Bizkit has taken the stage.
Wow. Charlie Warzel of The Atlantic wrote that Mangione has become an expression of the depth of righteous anger present in American life right now, a symbol of justified violence to some people.
So as a folk hero, in February 2025, Mangione released his first public statement from prison. It went like this.
I am overwhelmed by and grateful for everyone who has written me to share their stories and express their support.
Powerfully, this support has transcended political, racial, and even class divisions as mail has flooded MDC from across the country and all around the globe. Now, judging by the pictures that we've seen, this man is being treated well in prison. By all accounts, he's a celebrity to many in prison. I guess why not? He's a man that wanted to make a statement, and he made a statement. What that statement means to you, though, well, that is up to you.
A Gifts and Go fundraiser for his legal defense has raised over $1 million. Donors cite the politicization of the case, opposition to the death penalty, and frustrations with healthcare as reasons for giving.
And here's something that will shape the trial. With this level of public attention, this level of division in the country, finding an impartial jury is going to be extremely difficult. These lawyers are going to have their work cut out for them. those coming on board and they're in for a long and twisted journey. The defense is going to throw everything at them. This isn't going to be no e-bike trek through the park is what I'm saying here.
Okay. So where does all this leave us?
Leaves us with a reckoning, not just for Luigi, for all of us, for our humanity, for our very souls. Was that dramatic? That got dramatic.
I mean, a little bit. But Brian Thompson is dead. A 50-year-old father of two shot in the back on a Manhattan sidewalk. His wife called it senseless. His sons will grow up without their father. And whatever you think of United Healthcare, he was a human being with a family, and he deserved to walk into that conference and then walk out again.
Luigi Mangione is sitting in a Brooklyn Federal Detention Center. This is the same facility that houses Sean Freakoff Diddy Combs.
Wow.
And he's facing potential execution. This kid is an Ivy League graduate whose life took a dramatic turn after he had that chronic pain, isolated him from everyone he knew. A young man who, according to his writings, believed he was doing something righteous, something necessary, something that Mario was out there and didn't have the taste for.
He was wrong. So let me be clear about that. Murder is not activism. Violence is not reform. Whatever failures exist in our healthcare system, and they are real and they are devastating, they don't justify taking a life.
Because millions of Americans looked at this murder, this killing, and they didn't feel horror. They felt something else. Recognition, validation, understanding. He sees us, they think, and oh my gosh, those cheekbones.
That's not a failure of morality. That's a symptom. And when a significant portion of the population can look at violence against a healthcare executive and feel something other than revulsion, that tells you something about the pain that people are carrying.
Yes, the denied claims, the bankruptcies, the loved ones who couldn't get treatment, the 32% denial rate. Now we'll say it one last time. Delay, deny, defend. We've talked about all this already in the last 2 episodes.
And after the shooting, insurance executives scrubbed their photos from company websites. Investor conferences were moved online and security requests skyrocketed. They're scared now.
And maybe, just maybe, they should be asking themselves, why?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a gut check time? It's certainly a check my back time.
And not because they deserve the violence, because they don't. No one does.
But because when millions of people look at a murder and feel understood, when a killer's 3-page manifesto about parasites resonates more than a company earnings call, that's not just a crime story. This is a diagnosis. There's a sickness in this country that may not have a cure. It's almost like people are down with the sickness.
Wow. I see what you did there. Okay. Well, yes, there is a sickness and the diagnosis of a system that has pushed people to their breaking point. A system where getting sick can mean financial ruin, where fighting for coverage becomes a second job, and where the words prior authorization denied can literally be a death sentence.
Mangione wrote in his manifesto, it's not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play.
And he's not wrong about that. People know the system is broken. Books have been written, documentaries have been made, investigations have been published. Nothing changes.
And now a man is dead. Another man faces execution. And the system that brought them both to that Manhattan sidewalk, it continues.
So this case isn't over. The trials haven't happened. The verdicts haven't been rendered. And Luigi Mangione may spend the rest of his life in prison. He may be executed. He may, though it seems unlikely, walk free.
But whatever happens to him, the question this case raised is not going anywhere.
How much longer can a system survive when the people it's supposed to serve see its victims as martyrs and its executioners as heroes?
That's the cost of health in America.
And we're all paying it.
I'm Gabriel.
And I'm Catherine. And this has been The Cost of Health, a Mugshot Mysteries limited series. But before we go, Gabriel, I must ask, what did we learn?
We have learned that e-bikes have way more utility than I thought. Don't eat Kind bars. Eat Big Macs. Bushy eyebrows? They're back on the menu, boys.
Wow.
And I know nothing about guns. And the state of America is such that right now you have to decide whether 2 men's lives are worth more than possibly the thousands reform could save.
Sneaky footsteps in the night, clues that vanish out of sight. Grab your hat and magnifying glass. We'll talk this case and have a blast. Mugshot mysteries, we're on the trail. Twists and turns that never fail. Laughs and chills, it's quite the show. Who did it? Tune in to know. Stolen gem, a secret note, a shady figure in a trench coat. The clock is ticking, the plot gets thick. We'll crack this puzzle quick as a click. Mugshot mysteries, we're on the trail. Twists and turns that never fail. Laughs and chills, it's quite the show. Who did it? Tune in to know. Follow the breadcrumbs through the haze. Every clue's a piece in this crazy maze. Fun and thrills wrapped in crime. You'll love it every single time. Mugshot mysteries, we're on the trail. Twists